Audience is pleased to see you.
So this is going to be a quick video. This video is about practicality and comfort versus what's stationary in the game by default. Why this is important in this game, and it's important in every game. I'm using Warframe as an example, but this is important in every game. Practicality and comfort with regards to actions, and actions with regards to the game itself in any game. So to start off, or should I say, let's start off right now. When you start any game, the first thing you go to is the options, your settings, because one, you do it for comfort, because automatically in your mind you're going to assume that the people don't know what the hell they're doing, or that they don't understand you as a person, which they don't. They understand you as a gamer in general, like McDonald's understand the people that go into McDonald's, but they don't understand the individuals, types that go into McDonald's. So with that in mind, it's up to you to decide what you want on your hamburger, or what type of hamburger you want if you can't select what you want on your hamburger. So as long as they have variety and options of variety, you can make those changes. You can't change up the type of burger that you get or the type of shake that you get, but you could decide what type of shake you want and what type of burger you want if they have variety. And it's the same thing here. However, I would consider Warframe to be more like a buffet rather than a McDonald's. It's a mixture of both a McDonald's and a buffet. It gives you the options to make the choice where a McDonald's wouldn't give you that options. So that's what Warframe is more like, a buffet. So the first thing you usually go to when you're playing any game to the buffet is the options menu. And under the options menu, you have your presets and you have your action sets and other system functions as well. And you do that specifically um, because you want to be able to execute things easier for yourself and for others who are with you, for buffs, for resources, for to see the enemy and to understand how to play the game, to make life easier on yourself. When you play any game, it's about making life easier on yourself. So the first thing you go to in anything is the options menu. And this is specifically for Warframe, for those who've never played Warframe. You go into the options menu and you go under the first thing you see: controllers, systems, social, interface, video, audio, accessibility, mail, your account. And then you press the uh, right button, R1 or L1, you go back to controllers. So that's how you do it. So the first thing you want to do is access your controllers. When you load into any game, you load up the game, the first thing you go into your controllers. Because the first thing you want to do more than anything is to understand how the game works with regards to the controller first. And then you could figure out the miscellaneous and the devils in the detail stuff thereafter. But a comfortable controller could make your game experience last for a long time. Last for more than 1 year, last for more than 2 years. A controller, a button configuration controller, is essential for your gameplay experience, not just the menus or the interfaces, but how you fight and how you control things in combat based on ability and based on presets and based on functionality of actions, time period of actions, delay of actions. So the default for this have always been, and when you select any type of mode, you give the options. You go back to default, general, all, general default, or all defaults. Now, all defaults will change everything within your options menu to go back to all. You don't want that, because then everything in your options menu will go back to normal. you just select general. So generally everything that was in the generals, this section alone, is changed, whereas the abilities and everything else as are normal the way they've always been. So for generals, that stay the same on the controls. That is also another options as well. Um, Most games won't have that. Most games will just have the general controllers, and the general controllers is for everything else. Whereas Warframe has been around for quite some time. There are many different type of fight mechanics that have been applied to this world. One of them is a combat mechanic for Lunaru, which is kind of like volleyball slash football, and the other is placement with regards to identify interacting with objects, which has nothing to do with general combat fighting. And another is with regards to frame fighting, which is another type of fight mode, different from Lunaru, which is a sports mode. And there are button specific configurations for that because frame fighting is 2D fighting or 2D actions, whereas Warframe is 3D actions. And the next button after that is Railjack, because in Railjack you're controlling a ship. You can't have the same controls for when you're fighting. You're spamming your strike button or you're spamming your shoot button, or you're doing your mobility of running forward and backward, and you're expecting your ship to behave like you when you're running forward and backwards. So that's a different thing. So that's one, two, three. Three general ones for different fight modes or fight mechanics. The placeholders is a different thing, but it's not as important as these different ones. Fight mechanics and movement of one ship. Then there's the music aspect of Warframe, which is you use a Shausen, and Shausen is like a mixture of a guitar and a banjo and other forms of two-hand instruments with strings. But it's more like Japanese. I forgot the name of it. I'm not even going to try to look it up. I'm not gonna. I'm I'm not here for that. I'm here to just explain the different modes. I forgot the name of it. I'm not going to try to understand or remember what it is. And then there's the drifter mode. There's the drifter mode for operator, and the operator is a different mode itself because the operator is a different type of combat unit than the Warframe is. What sets you from different from an operator and a Warframe is that they're two different type of fighting styles. One is a human fighting style, and the other is a machine fighting style. You can basically say they're the same, but there are going to be at least one or two things that are off based on how they were designed. So they have to have their own mode sets based on that design. And then there's this one. I'm not sure exactly why they have this one, Driftability menu. This was actually, hold on. Yeah, Drifter ability menu should have actually been with Drifter. So technically there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then 7. Ability menu should be with the Warframe. But then again, Generals has nothing to do with abilities, so the abilities menu is more associated with Warframe. And placement should have been in Generals as well. So technically there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in total. But they split them up because sometimes it gets a little complicated. But in all truth, there should have been actually 5, and including generals, which will make it 7. So once you go back to general and you have it in default mode, you could then decide based on each button types which is most accurate for yourself. Shooting a weapon, aiming, running, movement, crouching, accessibilities of powers, accessibilities of turning on your map, accessibilities of interacting with objects, accessibility of waypointing. All these things are very important and very essential, especially if you're in combat situation where you're under fire or under siege from either an enemy or in PvP mode, which is part of the whole conclave. To give clarity on this, the base abilities are always going to be on your center D-pad. And this is accessed, or should I say, this is labeled this way simply because it's easy to do so. You just swipe to the left, swipe to the right, swipe above, or swipe down, and they'll do the powers. But let's say you have slippery hands. You could always switch that ability into a button, any button type. Let's say you want triangle, square, circle, or X to be those buttons. Or if you want up, down, left and right to be those buttons, to be A, B, C, and D. Warframe offers you the ability in order to do so by just selecting on the name type, and then you go into a long list of many things that you could change up for your controllers. Various different hotkeys. It seems like a lot, but if you think about it, it really isn't. Because based on everything that's here, and this is a lot of stuff that's on here for the controller, these are the same things that are within this menu, and ones that aren't within this menu are labeled as gear hotkeys. But you don't need to worry about that, because gear hotkeys is only something that, if you don't understand how controls work with regards to the system you're using, use them with regards to the computer you're using, or the pad you're using. So moving things around is always essential in Warframe, and it's necessary in Warframe, and it's essential in every game too. So if you were to make a video game, accessibility and the ability for, especially in multiplayer online, you have to give the players the options to change things around. Because if a character, or if a Warframe, or if an operator feels stiff, it's essential to move things around so that that stiffness goes away. The comfortability of gameplay is essential for long-lasting life of that game itself. It's incredibly important, because if a person feels like something is stiff all the time, and there's no way to configure certain buttons to adapt to that comfortability, they will get frustrated. And then there's those who are intimidated by the vast amount of things that they won't want to invest in it. But luckily, Warframe has made things easy in the ways that you could just simply switch around just a few things for that comfortability, such as I switch sprint with the up button, and whatever was the up button, I could put that for something else. Or if I choose to, I could ignore that default, which was show level map, which is up. I could ignore that, put sprint here, so that I could just tap up and always sprint without sprinting all the time. And I could make let's say I make the controller for here, which is movement. There are two executions for this button, just like there are two for this button. I could make this move, but I could also make this level map. Where is it? Show level map. So whenever I press down on the L3 button, the level map is going to show, but it won't impede my movement whatsoever at all of moving around. So I get two things with just one button. I get to see the world around me by just pressing down and then letting go, or hold down and then it shows, and then press and hold down and it goes away. And I could move at the same time while that's happening. That's very good. Some games you just press on the level map, it doesn't allow you to move around, which is fine. However, some games, the level map isn't placed in the proper place that will allow you to do certain things the way you need to do them. For instance, if you have your level map right in the center, by pressing down on the center of your pad, which was here, if let's say if your level map wasn't up, your level map was the center D-pad, it would now impede on your A, B, C, and D at the same time. Which means if the moment you press down on center D-pad, it might assume that you're trying to press C, B, D, or A, which you don't want to. Or if you do want to check the level map and press the up button for the area level. In combat, you might press up and to do something else, or you might accidentally press the up button while you're trying to press crouch and slide while you're shooting. Whereas you want to restrict the existence of the level map, or when you're trying to press waypoint marker, you accidentally press the up button because they're close to each other. You want to separate them far from each other so that you don't make mistakes. Whereas if you press the waypoint marker, it doesn't impede on your overall visual of your area, because the waypoint marker will be something very slow and won't interrupt your overall visuals as you're moving forward. So you want to separate the overall visuals of what you're watching from what you're moving around at the same time. So that's how I do it. I separate them far from each other so I don't have to deal with them. Now that's just for controllers. Now let's say let's say you go in combat, and in combat, after you change up your controller, something still doesn't work. Let's say everything feels stiff, your movement feels stiff, your abilities feel stiff. Well, thankfully this game, and many games should have this, not just Warframe, have a mode that allows you to test out your capabilities, whether it's in combat or within the testing arena. That way you could test the movability before you even execute any type of mission whatsoever within the game. This game offers you the ability to do that firsthand before you even start your second mission after the intro of the game. So what you do is you go to this relay, and all relay points what you do is, after you first unlock the Earth section, you will get various nodes within the Earth. The first thing you need to do is to find a relay. Once your relay has been unlocked, you will get different missions you have to do until you unlock your relay. Once your relay is unlocked, you can use that relay, go to that relay, and by going to that relay, the moment you stop off at that relay and exit out of that relay and run around in that relay, you then press on your options button. The options button allow you to bring up the options like in every game, and you would see something that says fast travel, and by pressing fast travel you would go to a Cephalon Samaris. Now if you haven't unlocked Cephalon Samaris, it won't show so you would have to do that mission. The alternative to this for practice is to pick a low level mission. So let's say you didn't unlock Cephalon Samaris, or you haven't unlocked Cetus, and it was your first day playing Warframe. Let's say the first place you unlocked was, I'll make it easy, an extermination mission. Oh, I had it on public. An extermination mission. So you select the extermination mission, and in order to make sure you go to this extermination mission, the ones that you did before, and you're not interrupted by anyone, you would take off public. Take off public completely and put it on either friends only, invite only, or solo. Now if your friends are playing Warframe, they could accidentally join you, so I would put invite only as an option, or solo. But solo is also might allow people to join you, so I would put invite only. Where's this? Exterminate. Where's exterminate? Excavation. So let's say you just did your first mission and you haven't unlocked Samaris yet, but you want to test out.
There is a large platoon of Grenier Marines stationed here. Leave no one standing.
And you need to change everything around with regards to your movement, with regards to actions, to comfortability. You then go right back to options like you did before. And the first thing you will notice as you get into missions, the sound is loud, the sound effects is loud, and you want to change that. So you would go over audio and you would decrease the audio and confirm it, the button over here, by pressing triangle. That would decrease the overall general sound of the entire game, including the sound effects, or after effects, or smoke effects, particle effects. So once that is done, or if you want to lock it out completely or lower it completely, you'll go over to sound, lower it to, let's say, 15 or 10. You will lower it there. That way you could test out everything of how things sounds with regards to your weapons, with regards to your movement, and with regards to your abilities as well. So the first way to test it out, as you enter the building, why I decide to use exterminate. The mission won't start until you first exterminate an enemy. This will be the best idea for you to do if you're first starting Warframe. So you then go into your options after you load the sound to test everything. And you already put in your controls. You then go over to the various different buttons that follow thereafter. Always change your customized controller before you go into mission, or you could do it the moment you enter a mission. So you could either do it before you enter the mission, or you could do it after you enter the mission. You just have to make sure that you're not in a group settings. You have to make sure you're in private settings in order to test something, if you have not unlocked Samaris simulation box as of yet, the simulacrum, however you want to call it. So what you do is, after you set in your controllers, then go according to the various different individual icons, or should I say the various different individual rollovers. Here, the X, Y, completely up to you. If you want to leave it default, you could leave it default. If you want to take it off, you could take it off. Completely up to you. The look sensitivity is quite important. Depending on the default which they have set for the game for look sensitivity. See, once you press default, the general options go back to normal. Or should I say the overall options for the game go back to normal. Once you press overall default, default will make the whole damn game go. But if let's say if you click on a specific icon and you change something in the specific icon, press this to jump, or back to sprint, confirm. Then confirm again for the overall settings. You notice something has changed. And the thing has changed is that before, when you weren't in combat and you were within your ship, that option wasn't given overall. It just popped up while you're in combat because it's a little different. When things operate in combat is different than when you're not in combat. So you have to confirm like twice when you're in combat. So here I have to, because I put it on default, put all my settings for everything, all of these back to default. So now I have to make sure I lower it back again and then go back to controllers again. Now the controller has been double confirmed, so sprint is still there. And these are still the way they've been because those were the last settings that I had. Now this is all back to default if you notice. Once you hit default, everything that was originally preset before, or not preset, set up before, has been back to the standard default. So the only way to enjoy a comfortable execution of abilities, or comfortable execution of movement, or comfortable execution of attack and firing is to test out right before you hit enemies. Now this is very essential because if the enemies are going to move fast, and if the enemies are using multi-shot, they're going to be crowding you after a certain while, and then certain shots are going to penetrate through your armor or through your shields and go directly towards your health. So it's essential to know how fast you need to move to kill one enemy and then move on to the next and to the next and to the next. Aiming down sights is essential. Let's say you're using this weapon, which is a heck weapon, and it has recoil. One shot allows the recoil to go all the way up here. But if I say, let's say I'm shooting multiple times, you notice the original location for which you shot the enemy has now completely gone past the first shot on a multi-shot fast firing weapon. So now it's assuming that the enemy is here rather than here the moment you're firing a lot, which is no good. So it's essential to also increase, I shouldn't say increase, to change up the modification for your weapon before you go into mission as well, which is another thing I'll focus on. Now, let's say if you're dealing with a weapon that has a lot of recoil, but it has fast firing. In order for you to kill a lot of enemies, you have to fire fast enough, obviously. But if you realize the recoil is contradicting that by the fast firing, then it's necessary to add a lot of multi-shots to that weapon and then control the recoil by putting a mod to control that recoil. Because you don't want to fire a lot fast, you want to get a lot of shots in just one fire. Multi-shot allow you to do multiple shots within just one shot. This is one shot, and this one shot off like, I would say about 5 to 6 rounds came out of this gun, or let's say just 4 rounds came out of the gun. With a multi-shot mod, it allows you to shoot about 8 rounds within one shot. But if you put another multi-shot round on, it would shoot like 12 rounds within one shot. This is extremely helpful, especially if you want to kill something fast, and especially if you have a weapon that does high recoil. If you don't mod it correctly in order to not get that recoil. So multi-shot is very imperative in this game, but multi-shot does not work if the fall off is high, which is your recoil is high. So it's essential to get a good shot off. At the same time, it's essential to make sure you control where the recoil is going to go if your firing rate is off. Because if your firing rate is off, you have to pull down on your R3 to bring it back down to the enemy, which you could be fighting against your controller just to get that shot off the kill. That's why it's essential to get that control with regards to recoil, or to apply massive amounts of multi-shot onto a gun if you're having recoil issues. Now let's say if the recoil for the gun or the accuracy for the gun it's way off, like it's 9 or 5. That's accuracy. That's not recoil. So a gun recoils based on you shooting. A gun's accuracy, once you shot off, accurately get an accurate hit based on what you're aiming, is different from the recoil after the shot has hit. So if the accuracy is good, it's just that the gun recoils backwards, then you have to do something to bring the gun back, bring the weapon back, the recoil from the weapon back to the original point, if the accuracy is good. Now if the accuracy is low and the recoil is bad, then the whole objective is to ensure that you get a lot of multi-shot into the weapon, as well as control the accuracy and the recoil, not firing rate. If you get a ton of multi-shots and high damage within a weapon, you don't have to worry about the firing rate. You just have to worry about the recoil and the accuracy, firing down sight. So that's one thing to consider. Now, you could do so in your controller, and that is line of sight. And it's completely up to you. Here, I'm going to lower the look sensitivity to 2 and the aim sensitivity all the way up, and we'll see what happens. See that? That's bad, because the moment I turn to the left, it goes way over here, and I turn up, it goes way up. Now as I'm looking down sights, everything is locked in tight. So now, because everything is locked in tight, I can't look around with R3 because everything is locked in tight. So neither the options for the look sensitivity is good. You want that look sensitivity to be up high, but you want your aim sensitivity to be low. It depends on your feel for the game. Now this is something you should apply to all games as well. So now I could look around from back and front extremely fast. Like if I run, I could look behind me and see fast. But if you spin too fast because you're under fire, you can make a complete 180 and not look behind you. So too much sensitivity when you're looking is also bad as well. So another thing that I like about Warframe, it allows for control of both the sensitivity for you looking and some sensitivity of you aiming. So I'm going to lower this down to say 50% or 45%. And I'm going to increase this aiming to about 27%. I'm going to confirm it. So if you get something on mission failed or imminent, just kill one enemy and then come back to where you are. Or not.